There's no formal training in giving appreciation and gratitude. In fact, I think the opposite is happening today. Just imagine you come back to your desk and it says, Dave, I wish you knew that your help and support over this last week, this was a game changer for me. I've been dealing with a lot at home and you just made this week so much better.
What other questions do you ask in the interview process that helps to weed out those who aren't a fit and to absolutely hone in on those who are?
They could be the best salesperson ever. If they come back and say they're not a culture fit, we will not hire them. And we have never deviated from that. We terminated our number one performing sales rep. He was performing really well, but he just believed he was above the core values of our company. Thought he's untouchable because he was driving huge revenue, but that's not in accordance with who we are and our values.
What is it that drives you then as a human? Yes, as a CEO, but as a person.
I started living my life backwards. That's my biggest hack ever. What are you waiting for? This is life. This is it. Like, you're not getting today back. Tomorrow's not promised. The reality is...
Welcome to the Edge of Possible, the podcast dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary things. I'm your host, Cameron Atlas, and together, let's unlock your edge. You might have heard the phrase before, culture eats strategy for breakfast. But how many leaders are actually willing to prove it when there is serious money on the line? Most companies have their values and mission statement written on a wall somewhere, but where it often falls short is when it comes to that truly becoming ingrained in the DNA of the organization and its people. My guest today, Tony Gareri, believes that if you're not hiring and firing based on those values, they're simply not real. Tony is the CEO at Roma Moulding and a man that I've known for a decade now. He took a 40-year-old manufacturing business during the global financial crisis and completely reinvented it by focusing on one core thing, culture. He famously fired his number one revenue-generating sales rep, not because of performance, but because he didn't fit the culture. And that single decision became the foundation for a company that is now globally recognized for its people-first philosophy. In this conversation, Tony takes us behind the scenes of what it really takes to build a high-performing team. We break down his culture-based hiring process that ensures that the team only hires the best. We talk about why he believes success is largely defined by what you're willing to tolerate. And he shares his personal philosophy on living life backwards to maximize every moment. If you lead a team, run a business, or just want to raise your own standards, this conversation is a masterclass. It's coming right up here on the Edge of Possible. Tony, you have built a very successful company, multi-million-dollar company with an incredible culture. And from the past 10 years that we've known each other, I've witnessed just how consistent that you've been with building that. So for those listening, what would you say the biggest mistake is that you see that leaders make when it comes to building a high-performing team?
Yeah, great question. I think it's pretty simple. I think leaders take too long to fire people. And I actually don't believe it's them being responsible to that individual. I think people are great. Intrinsically, I think people are great. They have families, they have lives, and sometimes as leaders, we have a huge obligation to put them in the right seat, going in the right direction for the right reason. And when that fails, because it does, I think it's our onus on us as leaders, our responsibility to remove them from that position, either reposition that or ask them to leave your company, because they'll probably thrive somewhere else way better and grow and excel way better. And I just think it's a win-win.
What have been some examples that, like real world examples that you've experienced as a result of that and doing that?
Yeah, just one that comes to mind is, I'm famously, I don't know if that's famous, but we terminated a number of years ago our number one performing sales rep in our company. And he was performing really well, but he just believed he was above the core values of our company. Like he wasn't in our ecosystem. He sat outside, proverbially outside of the ecosystem, thought he's untouchable because he was driving, huge revenue. And he was driving huge revenue, but that's not in accordance with who we are and our values. And that doesn't build culture. And so I think he can go off and do that somewhere else and probably did and probably thrived, but he's not going to do that with us. And immediately when that happened, I think it was short term, it probably sucked for him, but long term, I think he's in a better spot, maybe where he can champion, beating his chest and being above the company. For us, I think that was one of the major pillars or building blocks on creating, really what it means to have a culture. Culture is often defined about what you do and what you don't do.
How many years into building the company did that occur?
That was actually early on. That was,
Was
probably within the first 24 months. Because when you want to evoke change, I think everybody's looking, everybody's watching. Is this real? Is this a 2-month thing? Is this, for a quarter?
Are they just things on the wall that, you pay lip service to? Like, yeah.
Right. And we declared core. It took us 6 months to define core values, and Cameron, the exercise. I mean, it's daunting. You're building core values by the people, for the people. Once they're developed, and we made it very clear, these core values are going to be core values we're going to hire and fire based off of. And then people were like, yeah, well, let's see how that works. I'll tell you, fire your top performing sales rep who's bringing in huge amounts of revenue. That solidifies values.
Yeah. So was the company going then when you took it over, or did you start it from scratch? And then was it like in the initial stages then that you set out those core values? Like when did that come up and when did that come about?
So it was back in 2008, 2009, that global financial crisis that affected, primarily all businesses across the United States and Canada. But I think globally, I was given the reins of the company during the probably the most tumultuous time at our company, and having a decision to make. What do I do? Do I stay, transform, reinvent, recreate, or vacate? So I decided to stay, and if we were going to say, we needed radical transformation, and based on the guidance I got at the time, and modeling some of the greatest entrepreneurs and leaders, that I came across, I needed a real set of guiding principles, which are core values. And, to no one's fault within our company outside of my own, because core values are the CEO's responsibility to carve out. And in my opinion, we came out straight and apologized. Imagine having a bunch of people doing their best, but not knowing what guiding principles are. Like, are we going to beat our chest, or are we going to be humble? Are we going to do more with less, or are we going to blow budgets? So values, help individual team members, leadership teams guide behavior. And once we define them, we were dead set against, anybody defying them. We were going to coach, mentor, and train up. It wasn't like a Gestapo type of, you don't do it, you're out.
Yeah.
No, we coach, mentored, and trained up and exhausted that. But then, the choice is yours. You want to come along with the ride, you want to see the value in that, or you don't. And either way, I'm okay.
Well, let's talk about that specific example then that you gave before. So number one salesperson. So obviously they'd been there for a period of time if they're your number one salesperson. So how long were they there? Because I think a real world example here can really help leaders to understand how to actually do this versus just think about, oh yeah, I should be doing that or should be doing something differently. So how long was that person there? And then what was the mismatch?
Yeah. Listen, I might be off by a few years, but they were over a decade within our company. They were over a decade. They knew the territory really well. It was, I want to save, face for the individuals. I don't want to share exact territory, because this is not implicitly, targeted to shame someone by any stretch. Like, I actually hope they're thriving. It was in the United States, and they had been with us for a better part of a decade, crushing numbers, but it was like a bull in a china shop, and you can produce results. I always say there's 100 roads to Rome. There's different strategies you can take to get somewhere, and this individual just believed that he was above the law, so to speak. If he had to cuss someone out in our call center, in our customer experience center, or operations, they just believed that was okay as long as we were generating the revenue. And listen, in many opportunities where I get to speak to entrepreneurs, I ask them point blank, how often or who are one or two people that are on your team that shouldn't be on your team, that if they're not on your team would actually open up an opportunity for you. You know, almost unequivocally, everybody raises their hand, right? For us, I know I was being put to the test. Here we are 2 years into building values. It's really a year and a half because it took us 6 to build it. And we were being tested. It's kind of like, you know, having children. They're pressing buttons to see which one works to really piss off dad, or how far can I go? My daughter's brilliant at it. She'll be like, okay, dad, but if I do this, like it's all a strategy game. But I think it's no different in business. I think people on your team, I always say people don't listen, they imitate. And therefore, I think people are watching the CEO and the leadership team. So choice is yours.
You took 6 months, you mentioned, to create those core values, those guiding principles. What was the process? How did you go about actually defining those?
Yeah, so it's a 6-month process that I outline in several blogs on my website, tonygareri.com, if anybody wants to see it. But there's many ways to build values. I believe values that stick are values created by the people for the people, including me. So what we did was, I didn't know, you know, we had about 150 people in the company across 2 countries and various different states. I just didn't know what values people subscribe to. Was it an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, or was it like, listen, you know, lead with your heart? So our first email out to the company was, hey, we don't have values. Not having values is not having any guiding principles, which automatically puts us at a disadvantage. Because what happens is how do people know how to act or what actions to take? Typically, people are like, prior, they were like, you know, what would Tony do? And I'm like, don't do what would Tony do, or, you know, what's the right thing to do? What defines right? And I think our values today are so crystal clear and so entrenched in what we do. And, you know, people talk about, I have no time. Well, you want to buy back your time, give them guiding principles, empower them to make decisions, and you don't need to be there for every decision, so to speak. And my go-to, no different than it is with our video guy or our head of social media or head of operations. Oftentimes they'll come to me and I'll be like, well, does it align with the values of our company? Number one. And number two, does it envelope up and align with our mission? And they're like, yes, yes. Well, then why are you hesitating? And is it a calculated risk, right? And is it the first time you're doing it? Because if you did it and it failed, don't do it again. So guiding principles really helped. So we need to know who is on the team and what values do they have. So I asked everybody, what are the values you subscribe to? Send it back to this email address. It'll be totally anonymous. And so people, I think we had like something like 300-400 different values. I'm like, wow. Because there's a lot of ways to say lead with heart. Or there's a lot of ways to say, you know, an eye for an eye, so to speak. We whittled those down, and what we found out, it was around 175-ish different values. And then from there, you know, again, it was slow and steady. We asked them to digest these. If you read these 175 or 200 values, do you feel you're represented in these values, right? Good or bad? We took out some of the profanity because it was not a good time at our company. It was just not. It was like, F you and your values, right? Again, anonymous, people are going to put stupid shit. Yeah. But yeah, we did that. And everybody unequivocally said, yep, heads up, you know, good. And so then with a cross-functional team, we kept whittling those down. It was 175. Then we brought it to 100. We sent it out. Do these still represent you as a person, right? Your values. Yep. Green light. And then we kept whittling them down over 6 months, because if you speed it up, it doesn't give people time to digest it. It seems very contrived, and you know what happens in that environment. Nothing thrives. And so as we were whittling down, we did get some comments on like, well, what happened to, I don't know, X? And then what we did was we started saying, well, if these are the values, we want to take values that will guide us, that we can all agree to. And so there were some outliers. And as we whittled them down, we got to 10 after 6 months. And this is not a 100% everybody was on board. You want to get a good 85% and higher that says, yes, I could live and breathe and be led by these values. And once we did, we were off to the races. We haven't changed them. Now, it doesn't mean you can't change them as your company evolves, but we have not changed them. It's been 14 years.
So a question with that then, in that process, so you did each person in the team feels like they're represented in the values. What about the future people that weren't part of the team yet? So the people that you were aiming to attract in the future, you're obviously aiming to attract high-performing talent, those that can take the company to the next level. Did you think about that in that process?
Yes, absolutely. So, one of our values, core value number 7, is be humble. And we certainly believe in humility. I mean, you can be a rock star and be humble, or you can be a rock star and be pompous. We want to deal with these guys. And we believe that if we were then going to go out there and hire, we wanted more humble people per se, or we wanted more people who believe in over-delivering in communication, core value number 8. And so, yeah, we did do that. And we also did the opposite. Would we fire if someone was going to be pompous? Would we? Yeah, because last thing you need is someone coming in beating their chest, and that's cool and all, but as long as you're not taking down people along the way, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament to you not changing the values over the last decade. Because it'd be one thing if you didn't change the values and your business is going, tanking through the floor, but you've crushed it, and you're continuing to set higher standards and raising the bar over and over again. What's been some of the growth that you've gone through and experienced since you took over to where you are now?
Yeah, so I love that question. So you and I both know an overnight success is usually 10 years. Right. And it's ironic because I think we've been friends for over 10 years, so in and around there. Yeah, I'll tell you, I am still part of the recruitment process within our company. We're not we don't have 700 employees yet. We're I would say 150-ish employees, and we ebbed and flowed through the ages, right? Through time. And I'll tell you unequivocally, one of the questions I ask, and I'll get to your question. One of the questions I ask in the interview is, how did you hear about us, right? And number 2, what did you hear, see, watch that has you in front of us? Because there's a plethora of JOBs out there, plethora of them. And I'll tell you, Cameron, I'll tell every entrepreneur, when the person comes and says, I read your values and you spoke to me. My video guy, he's a great new guy, super smart, super intelligent, came to me and, hit me up. He actually hit me up in Instagram privately. And he said, listen, I've read your values. You wrote that to me. And I think core values also are used to polarize. You got to know what you want to not know what you don't want. I always say it's a fulcrum, and you got to stand on that fulcrum and it repels or attracts just based on declaration. And over, I would say, the last 14 years, we've been leveraging core values, we've hired remarkable people. Again, I'm sure there's remarkable people who are probably pompous, who don't want to over communicate, who, I don't know, are miserable at work, but produce. Nothing wrong with those people. We just don't want those. So, when you do that at scale over decades, the culture of the company, what actually happens is something wild. The more it spins, think of time as in revolutions, and we're moving. The more we move and the stronger the values become with our company, 2 things happen. 1, people who don't align with the values eject. They self-eject. Think of a pinwheel. They can't hold on anymore. They just boom, right? So it's a self-ejecting. And then people that do, they want to jump into this and just, create more momentum, because we're trying to up the game every time we hire on. And so where are we today? My man, I'll tell you, we are thriving. That would be my word. We are thriving in a marketplace that is, and you and I both know, unprecedented. Like it's changing weekly. AI is changing everything. Abilities to adapt and shift. And I mean, crazy, but I'll tell you, I've never felt more secure about my future and the future of this company and our team. Like we've stacked the bench on this company. Like some of the people that have, majority of the people that show up in this industry, we by far have the greatest people within our industry, for sure. And then the results internally are wild. Like some of the innovations, some of the software development, some of the projects, many of them I'm not even a part of. But when you hire within a set gambit of core values or principles, like magical things show up.
There's two things I want to touch on there. I mean, there's so much gold in there. If we just wrapped up this now, like just go and do that for those of you, those listening, right? One is that in the interview process, it's almost giving them the responsibility to come to you to show that they've been proactive in why they're actually showing up. The amount of times where I've seen, in different roles previous to the work I'm doing now, especially within management and like different leadership roles, the resumes would come through and multiple times you go, this has just been sent to probably about 50 different places, right? And then sometimes they made an incorrect name of the company. Like it was that obvious. They didn't actually do that. Right? So, yeah, totally. I'm sure you have. And what I love about the question that you asked is it's giving them the responsibility to show that they're aligned to the values first and foremost. But I'd go one further. I just pulled up some of the values, and that delivering wow through service being the number one. You're already seeing if somebody's done their homework, if somebody's done an extra piece, like gone the extra mile a little bit, that straight away is going, it seems like they have the potential to live in alignment with that value. Now, time is the greatest piece there as to whether they actually do show up over and over and over again, or if it was just a facade. But it's those kinds of questions that the answers can be really telling, right? So I've got a question around that. First up, what other questions do you ask in the interview process that helps to weed out those who aren't a fit and to absolutely hone in on those who are?
Okay, so you're wanting to go and pull some of the greatest content. So we'll do that. What I want people to know is we hire slow and we fire fast. We're not an anomaly. It could be a cliche for some, but we actually take long. You're going through a number of hoops before you're hired, and the final kind of test is we do a culture vet. And to your point, like what questions? Well, we don't just do a question. We actually do it's called a culture vet interview. And it's where we do 3 or 4 cross-functional team members. It could be someone from procurement, operations, marketing, sales. So if a candidate is on the last kind of interview, so they've seen the hiring manager, they've seen HR, they've seen even me, depending on the level within the company. So they've seen everybody and they think they're done, but now they meet with this cross-functional team and it's to culture vet. Will they thrive in our culture? And the questions all have to be around our values. So weird things have happened in culture vets. Oftentimes they'll come in and they'll give them a puzzle and they'll say, we'd like you to finish this puzzle. Now it's a small puzzle, and they'll take out 2 pieces of the puzzle. And we want to see how they're going to react when things don't go right. Is their reaction inquisitive? Is their reaction, curious? Is their reaction, how are they dealing with that kind of breakdown in front of 4 people they've never met? Or something else might be, they might do a roll call. Hey, partner calls you. I'm going to be partner ABC and you're on the call center. How would you deal with this partner? Here we go. Good morning. Thank you for choosing Roma. Blah, 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 blah. And they're just both. So nothing is pre-canned. It's very organic in nature. And here's the kicker. If they come back and say they're not a culture fit, we don't hire them. They could be the best salesperson ever. We will not hire them. And we have never deviated from that.
Yeah, it's so good. It reminds me, there was this, one of the hires years ago with a company that I was in one of the leadership roles there, and we had a group of people come in, and these were people that were interviewing for the same job, right? So we had multiple people in the same room, and we had this little exercise, and there were these candies that were on the table, and yeah, there were these imaginary scales that you had to work out which one of the candies, you had 3 goes, which one was the heaviest, right? Which one was the heaviest? And, one was a different weight than all the other ones. And they're just witnessing the different people and how they would go about that. One of them, I remember like going, "Oh, this can't be done." And I'm like, "Oh, she's out." And then the next one is like just these little moments that occurred. But there was this one guy, and he's there, and he took the candies in his hand, and then he put them back down, and then he drew on a piece of paper because we had different instruments to be able to utilize, different things to be able to work it out, depending on how people process the information. And he just kept going until there wasn't any time left. And straight away, like we knew, especially for the role that he was potentially going to be moving into, there's a pretty good chance that he's going to be a really good fit here. So he got called back. And I kid you not, the day he comes in, so we had over the weekend, comes in, I think it was a Monday. And guess what? The first thing that he said when he comes into this next interview, he comes in and I see him and he goes, "I got it." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I worked it out." And he spent time over the weekend figuring out like what the answer was. And I'm like, "Oh, that is brilliant." And what I love about the exercise that you shared is that it is providing opportunities for people to show who they actually are versus who I say I am on a piece of paper, or who I say I am when I know what the question's going to be and I can answer in a specific way that can get me the job. And what you've done in these situations, and it's brilliant, is there are not massive pressure, but there's a bit of pressure there. There's a bit of pressure that puts them under something to see who actually are you when you're at your most challenged, because they're going to be the moments that determine, do you actually live and breathe the culture in those moments? Because anyone can do this stuff when it's easy. Like I can be super disciplined when I've got nothing else that has to get done and there's only one thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But when there's 20 things that have to get done and I've still got to be so disciplined when these other things that are so much more fun, or this over here, and I've still got to do what's required rather than what I feel like in a certain moment. Like it's those moments that really matter, right?
Totally. Like, and we've heard this adage, everybody's a great sailor in smooth waters.
Yeah.
Right. Put them in an environment where it kind of mirrors, there will be breakdowns and challenges. Another one we do is oftentimes I'd want to see people sometimes multiple times. So I'll do a different location and I'll do a Starbucks typically. And I want to see if they're there early. That's number one. Number two, I want to see if they offer me a drink or do I offer them a drink. And then depending on how I'm feeling, if I know the person or the barista, I ask them to mess up the order and see how they react.
Good.
And it tells a lot about somebody, right? Because I know myself, I'm like A-type personality. I got to be there first. I would want to do my research, how do they like their coffee or their tea? And then under pressure, how am I dealing with that? So it's a cool little I guess insight into behavior. Because like you said, Cameron, I think this needs to be said, we all know people lie on resumes. Heck, we know people lie with their degrees, for God's sakes. You can almost buy anything today. And I think that's just gotten way harder to detect with AI. You know, people, and you know, HR leaders aren't talking about it enough, but the traditional resume, looking at education, like that's antiquated, because both can be fumbled, or both can be lied upon, and especially with AI now, people are rewriting resumes to pair for your job description. Like entire resumes are written in 20 seconds. To when you read it, they're like, oh my god, this is perfect. But is it? So I think we got to get smarter.
Is every single part of your hiring process in person, or is there certain, because you've probably got some remote positions as well, is there? And how do you go about that, and how are you thinking about that with, from an AI standpoint? There's some deep fakes that I've seen, and I like somebody that I spoke to a little while ago where there was almost a transfer of a ton of money that occurred because one of the C-level executives thought they were talking to the CEO on the phone. And then just thought that something was up, and then called him afterwards, and said, "Hey, just wanted to check and make sure that you confirm that we want to do this and execute on this, because it was a sale that had just occurred." And he goes, "We didn't have that conversation."
Wow. Yeah,
wow.
I can't say that's happened to me. Yeah, we do if it's remote. We have majority of our team is in the United States, so it's by virtue it's remote. I want to say, I don't know if I've been lucky, but we've been lucky with really great people. I think the only way to vet that is over a prolonged period of time. Hence why go slow to go fast. And because you could probably do a really great audition once, but 2, 3, 4 times, that might be a little more cumbersome and difficult. So so we adapt it for the online, but I can't speak yet to deep fakes. But maybe in a year we'll talk more about that.
Probably 6 months. I think maybe you'll experience something there. It's wild how fast things are shifting. What are some things when it comes to the culture then? How do you go about rewarding within the culture, when it comes to living in alignment with those core values?
Yeah, great question. So there's a number of different things we do. We host an all-hands meeting 3 times a year where we shut the company down for 2 hours, and we do this novel thing like talk to our team, and we talk about what we're doing, what we're not doing, which is equally important, and what were some of the missteps along the way, how we clean that up, and then how we're thriving or not. Epic. And those are live streamed on the internet for everybody to see. And we do that purposely so that, our competitors, the good ones, or team members on competitors are watching and wanting to be on our team rather than sitting in their office. So at that all hands meeting, we celebrate a core value award ceremony. It's every all hands meeting. We're on all hands meeting 46 coming up in May. So we've done 46 of them. It's every 125 days, an excellent calibrator of your team. But specifically to your question, in this core value awards, it's the individual who represented a value that went above and beyond. And it's totally nominated by team members for team members. It's fantastic. That's one. And so they're really recognized throughout the entire company by me. And they're given like swag. They're given a framed, obviously we're in framing, a certificate. That's one way. We also do core value cards. Dude, I could talk 3 days just about core value cards, but more importantly, the acknowledgement of a behavior. So what we do is if we see someone living the values of our company, people are encouraged. Like if you go on our website as well, for our remote people, you can type on Roma Moulding core values, and it's open for anybody. Anybody can write a note to a team within the company, and it could go something like this: "Hey Cameron, it could be core value number 7, be humble. Dude, you exhibit humility on a level that's so exemplary. Like, I love you, brother. Thanks for your support." Or, "Hey, your ability to make the office just so much happier. Thank you for showing up who you are. You making a big difference. You're right that, and there's this to and from, and you probably would recall these days back when we were kids, those Valentine's cards. It was to and from.
Yeah.
I ripped it right off of that because everybody loved to get one. And so team members are encouraged to write those down and share them. Now, you don't get anything for them. You don't get a point. You don't get a raffle. You get nothing outside of the sheer, I would say, happiness of delivering a core value, and then the happiness of receiving a core value card. And these cards have now become, so to speak, currency within our company, and people plaster them on the back of, their desks, on walls, and I think it goes a long way, because I think there's a lot of people in the world who feel they're never acknowledged, like that their actions don't mean anything. And I'll tell you, when I send a core value card to a team member, and either I'll leave it at their desk, or I'll send it, through our digitally, or I'll send it in person. If it's in person, I almost always get a hug. Like, no one's ever like, "Oh, dude, you give me a card." No, it's usually like, "Oh, like, dude, thank you." But receiving one, like, you're like, "Oh man," even the CEO of the company, like, thanks for acknowledging, thank you. Like, that was so nice. And so now we do core value awareness weeks, where within 1 week, 5 business days, and we measure these, we give out within the company about 1,500 core value cards to team members inside our company. Just think of how the consciousness of the company is that week alone. It's wild.
Let's talk logistics of that. How is that set up? So there's physical cards, because I think it's brilliant. There's physical cards, there's digital as well. How does it work? And was it a full custom setup, a custom build when it comes to the digital component? Is it easy? Just thinking about those listening, how they might actually utilize it.
Yeah. Dave's going to grab a card on my end. So we, so the physical tangible card is literally, dude, like a 2.5 by 2.5 card, very utilitarian. And we started giving them out, and then we started seeing that, they became currency, and I think other companies do various renditions of it, and I've seen it, and we've inspired many to do the same. Yeah, we've inspired a lot of people to do that. The online stuff just happened ad hoc, because I think people were taking photos of it and then sending it. And then I think our dev team just surprised everybody and said, "Hey, we attach it to the website. Away you go." And there's even a clicker there, Cameron. I don't know. I know we're on this, but there's even a clicker that shows how many have been sent. And that's when we officially started counting. But yeah, thanks, Dave. So these are our core value cards. So like
awesome.
Core value number 2 is be real, live in integrity.
Yep, nice.
Right, and on the back, it kind of shows like, hey, to whoever, Cameron, and it reads like this: "You've exemplified this core value in a way that has moved, inspired, and wowed me. Keep up the awesome work." But they're all be passionate, committed, and driven.
They're beautifully designed as well, which is fantastic. And again, just like feels uniquely you, right?
Yeah,
uniquely the company.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many companies, as a result of me showing these, that have built their own renditions of them and using them at scale. And then off of this, we now created a new one, dude. I'm super stoked about it. It's brand new. It's an "I wish you knew" card. So finish this sentence. So we encourage because we're not trained, like there's no formal training in giving appreciation and gratitude. In fact, I think the opposite is happening today. But I think humans, like, it's a behavior, it's a learned behavior to give and acknowledge behavior, especially when it's in accordance to our values. So what we did was at the end of each leadership conference, I would ask for feedback. And the best way I knew to ask for feedback was I used to get those cue cards, those cue cards with the lines on it?
Yeah.
I would say, "Hey, I want you to finish this sentence. Tony I wish you knew ... Finish that sentence and don't write your name on it. And dude, the feedback I got, like at the beginning, the feedback was like, Tony, sometimes your intensity kind of scares me. Can you dial it back? I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't know that. Or, hey, Tony, what you said resonated with me, and as a result of that, like, I've changed who I am as a father. And dude, I have them posted right here. Like, they're posted all outside. So now what I did was we created, as a culture team, we said, why don't we open that up to the company? And basically it's a card like this that says, I wish you knew ... And people are sending it out. We haven't been like measuring it because that's not the point. But just imagine you come back to your desk and it says, Dave, I wish you knew that your help and support over this last week, like, this was a game changer for me. I've been dealing with a lot at home, and you just made this week so much better. You come back to that at your desk. Like, think of something else that can have you feel that level of dopamine and serotonin in one shot, because it's real.
Good. Yeah, it is real. And in a world where many people are addicted to that dopamine rush, like that hit that they get, I think it's going to become more and more important for us to experience it in real, authentic ways in order for us to feel like a sense of belonging in the world, a sense of humanness in the world, I think would probably be another way of putting it. And what I love about the cards, and I know there's a bunch of other things that you do as well, you're making it easy for people to show that they care. And that's a real quality inside a company, because to me, at the end of the day, one major part of leadership is how can I get more out of you than you would have gotten out of yourself, right? And take you to achieve something even greater than you could have done alone. And this is one beautiful example of that, because if I receive something like that, yeah, I'm going to want to do more of that. I love that somebody noticed that, and I've thought a bit about this over the last year or so, about this word of being useful, that of just wanting, I'd say my life in general, of how can I be of most use? Like the things that I've learned, how I've grown, what I've overcome, all of these pieces. How can I utilize that? How could that be useful for others? And just feeling when there's some kind of feedback that comes back that enables me to say, I think what I shared just then was really useful. That was it was valuable to somebody else. That really means something.
Well, and Cameron, I'll tell you, and it's not because we're on this podcast. I mean, knowing you have a giver's mindset, dude. You offer value at scale to people, and many of it goes undocumented, and that's by design. But you're right. Like, if we can get that behavior internally to each other, what are they doing externally to our customers? We've all heard the adage, you can't have a great customer experience from an unhappy employee. And it really starts internally. You can train the crap out of them to deliver a contrived experience, but like our call center has no scripts. We don't have scripts because everybody's individual, and we want a unique experience every time someone shows up. Yes. Is there language we choose to use? Yes. Is there a cadence? Yes. But it's ad-libbed or ad hoc, because internally we have a cadence of how we make people feel. And believe it or not, that just transfers to the customer. And by the way, then what happens is these didn't become internal, they became external. So now our team members have taken upon themselves to write it to our customers, our partners, and mail them. Dude, mailing this thing, and customers getting it's like, because you talked about how everything is now either digitized or transactional, a text. You get something like this becomes currency.
Yeah.
And they're putting them on their wall, and they're making posts. Look what Roma sent me. Like, I want to deal with a company who acknowledges, a great creative mind. And you know what the other thing is? It's got to be genuine. Like, they're not doing it to hit a quota. They don't have any. Dude, they don't have any. Like, it's not like you must. No.
And that
Gotta be
shines.
inside.
It has to be. It shines through. There's something really that. First up, what do we get in the mail these days? Bills and junk. Right, that's basically it. Right, there's not much that comes in the mail,
and almost no bills anymore.
Yeah, yep.
So it's just junk.
It's just junk, right? So like being able to, like you said, receiving something that is not that, and with that genuine desire of the way I approach, you mentioned about the giver's mindset. The way that I think about that, I know you're the same with this as well, is that notion of giving freely without expectation, knowing you're going to get taken care of in some way, shape, or form. But it doesn't need to be from this specific interaction, right? If you're showing up in an incredible way in every single area of your life, you're going to get stuff back, right? It's going to come back to you. And it comes back in so many beautiful ways and in ways that you couldn't even imagine. And that's where that genuine nature comes in. The other thing that you mentioned, I think, is really important to cover as well and mention is that you've got these guiding principles, these core values, and you've got space around those values that enable each and every person inside the organization to be themselves in how they bring those to life. And that is an outstanding way to enable somebody to feel that they're part of the company, that they're creating the company, and that who they really are at their core is simply being magnified inside something that they're a part of.
You hit the nail on the head. And I think to add to that, someone once came to me, let me see if I have the value here. It was brilliant. And it was an overstep on my part, not an oversight. Because we're like, okay, let's, deliver wow through service. And, we got to aim to wow them. And someone came to me and said, how do we do that? Like, that's not a normal thing. How do we wow them? I know about delivering good customer experiences or great. What is a wow customer service experience? And it hit us like a brick in the head. We got to define these out. And then we got to show evidence of what a wow, delivering wow through service, like give the evidence of how it feels on that end, but then what happens on this end when you do that? And how do you know you did it? And so throughout the company, we show evidence of what happens when you do. So in our all hands meetings, we have a portion of the all hands meetings where like we play back a customer call. And at, over time, if done properly, your customers will expect it from you. Now, It can work to your favor, dude, or it could work to your not favor. Let me give you an example. When it works to your favor, it's like, wow, keyword wow. Wow, you folks really do care about a customer experience. Thank you. When it doesn't go in your favor, they will remind you, well, Roma, this is not a wow experience you promised. I'm like, but that's a blessing because we both know I rather have the partner say, hey, I'm not wowed by this experience than the customer not saying nothing and then
leaving. Yeah.
So if done right, because cultures also define, one of the pieces that defines culture is language. Let's think of when you go to Italy, they speak a language called Italian. When you go to, a different country, it's a right? So language shapes the culture. Rituals shape the culture. Behaviors shape the culture. So language is one.
You mentioned about defining. So how did you go about defining them when it came to, okay, you've got the value. How did you go about defining them while giving then still some autonomy for them to bring them to life in their own unique way, each staff member?
So the way we define them, because it's often hard to whittle down 200 individual values into 10. And we just rested on 10 because I think we tried to go less, but we felt like that wasn't going to be it. And then 10 fingers, 10 toes, it kind of made sense. And we combined some like, be passionate, committed, and driven. we combine 3 in 1. So if you're like the individual who's super driven and passionate, we give you some room in this. Does that make sense? Deliver transparent, open, honest communication. There are different, I would say, breadths of communication.
Right.
We tried to do it that way, and it's a general rule of thumb. And when done right, and over a prolonged period of time, it becomes almost a ritual, a behavior. So it'll be, even when we're coaching people, it's so easy, dude. It's so easy to coach on this. I'll give you an example. Core value number 4 is to build a positive team and family environment. And so say someone, has an altercation with someone in the company, because we are human, like we're certainly not perfect. And by the way, I don't hold anybody to perfect. I hold them to really good, but not perfect. Yeah. And so our team leaders are trained on this. Our HR team leaders are trained on this. And the first question we would ask is, do you think your actions aligned with core value number 4 to build a positive team and family environment? And unequivocally, it's a yes or no question. There's no ambiguity. They're like, well, no. Oh, okay. And it opens up, you being a coach would know more than anyone, it opens up a dialogue rather than making them wrong. So it's showing, hey, we said we're going to do this. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the experience was this? Yes or no? No. All right. What do you think we could have done to have that experience? How could we have played that differently? Now, oftentimes, I know, but, blah, 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 blah. And let them throw up. I always tell people, you got about a minute to throw up with me. I'll give you a minute. More than a minute, I get like convulsions and hives. but everybody needs an opportunity to like throw up proverbially. Yeah. But then when they calm down and they let out that kind of anger or that displeasure, I'll say, what could we have done to build this and still get a different result? It just defuses the dukes, and they're like, yeah, you know what? It's true. I could have done X. Great. Opens up dialogue, opens up coaching. Now, if someone's digging their heels in, well, blah, 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 then now they might be in the heat of the moment. So give them time to kind of calm down. But if they're defiant on, it, you got a problem and you got to start to coach up or coach out.
The example that you gave before with delivering wow through service and the person saying, well, how do we do that? Did you go through the process of actually defining some examples before you maybe had them because you were at a low point, or you maybe already had them? How did you go about going maybe that next level of granularity?
Love it, brother. Yeah. So at the beginning, if we go back 14 years, it was a very different, just because you carved out core values doesn't mean they show up, day one, they're published, right? No, an overnight success is usually 10 years, and you need to be committed and disciplined and focused on them. However, you're right. How do you train someone who otherwise wasn't delivering wow service to suddenly shift to a wow service experience without making them wrong? We did models, and the one model we used was by a dear friend. He's no longer with us, but Tony Shea at Zappos.com. And we've had multiple conversations about Tony and his leadership and how he was instrumental early on with me. Great guy. And I got to meet him, and he certainly mentored me in those early days where I didn't really understand or want to believe how culture, is a predication or can predicate success. But yeah, we would give examples, like literal examples of companies doing that at scale. And then from there, 2 or 3 examples per value, people start to be like, okay. And then we coached through language and dissect, when you call Disney World, it's a very different experience than if you call, I don't know, Wonder World. And we juxtapose brands, right? How is the experience at X? And oftentimes we would often say, well, let's look at your life. Like, what's a company you think does a remarkable job and has you feeling amazing when you shop there? because we want to talk their language before we bring them to our language. And then they would often say, oh, I love Sephora. When I go there, I'm greeted instantly. I'm never made to feel stupid. Total patience. And, good. So how do we make, right? It's all an emotional connection. And the more you coach that, within the team, through language, through how we show up, through patience, through diligence, through love and care, can then you deliver a remarkable experience. And I want to give you this last point, which is very important on this. The one that, because I had to be sold, dude. So as entrepreneurs out here, they're like, yeah, well, how's culture going to make me money? Or how's a leadership strategy going to make me money? Like, we live in an AI world. I want a bunch of humanoids. Well, I'm the guy to say, you might have it wrong, right? Or if that's the way you want to go, great. But there's a very different way to achieve success, and that's through having a remarkable team and people. The one that got me was Zappos.com early on. I can't speak to today, but early on, I went to do a tour in the facility. They hosted tours. They were 3-day tours. I spent $800 to be in a tour of their company for 3 days. Like, what company do you spend $300 to sit in their call center and just learn from them? Like, I think it was remarkable. And I must have told this story at scale over 14 years. Anyways, I sat there and I recall they told us a story that they have no call scripts. They are not tasked to end the call within a certain time. Like, hey, you have a 2-minute time limit, get in, get out, right? Like, that was not there. They didn't have language, but because the culture developed the language, they were using language that was in alignment with their values. And they said one individual called, and I think, and this is the kicker for me. The one thing they did measure is their longest call ever, dude. And don't quote me. I don't want to be quoted here. So I'm gonna go on a whim and say, at the time, their longest call. Now they sell Zappos. They're famous for selling shoes, but they sell apparel. They sell a bunch of stuff. Their longest call was 10 hours. 10. So I'm like, what were they talking about for 10 hours? And that customer care individual, customer experience team member, just felt that this person needed someone to talk to them. And they were probably having a terrible day or something. I don't know. But they were applauded for taking a 10-hour call. And so they champion it. So imagine you have, like, who has the record for the longest call? What are you signaling to your team rather than, hey, Cameron got the best award because he was in and out with a customer experience in 3 seconds, right? Actions predicate the culture, not words. It's the actions. And you share that at scale with your team and they're like, I get it. And it's not an overnight game. Tony Hsieh is quoted by saying, culture is a 5 to lifetime strategy. And I wholeheartedly believe that.
Well, there's such an incredible cycle that you have going where, okay, there's a defining of that, articulating what it is in the first 6 months and then giving, okay, now here's some specific examples because, oh man, people don't even know what it means to live that. And then the magic happens when you start experiencing the culture through the team members, through the staff members. And then there's feedback that comes through. And then there's an understanding as to what it really means to live this. And then it becomes more and more uniquely you as a company that separates you from anybody else, which then creates almost a moat around your company of those people who want this and they really align with the culture. They are going to fit in so incredibly well and they're going to thrive here. And I do think, but especially as we become increasingly digital, increasing AI capabilities in these areas, the human component to it, the more human that we can make it feel, I think the better people are going to do. Because in an increasingly emotionless, maybe is a way of putting it, in certain areas where, when it comes to social media, for example, okay, I can just scroll through and I might experience something funny or experience something sad. But is there really like a human to human interaction that you get? It feels very different when it's an actual conversation, when you're in person with somebody or having a conversation over a call. It feels different. And I think it's going to become even more important as time goes on, because we're seeing things like mental health challenges in other areas behaviorally. These aren't going down with these technologies. They're increasing. They're getting worse. And so the more that we can create, especially when we spend, kind of a quarter to a third of our lives, sometimes a half of our lives doing work, it makes a lot of sense to feel like you're a part of something incredible.
Yeah, like, dude, I wish I had a clicker. Like, the amount of time you said how we make people feel. I think you said 3 or 4 times. We'll play it back after. But I'm reminded by this Maya Angelou quote that was relevant then, but I think it's even more relevant today. You know, people forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And in a world, as you've alluded, and we're not immune to using AI, I think you should leverage AI
Totally.
Wisely.
Yes.
But I think the next 10 years or the next 5, because 10's ridiculous, but I think I think the ones that double down on how we make people feel will win. And the more human, as you used that term, the more human we make the transaction, I think that's going to be the same thing as getting a piece of this in the mail. It's going to be like, oh, so are you actually human? Like, can you do this? And, oh, okay, so it's really you. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And dude, you've probably done, like, so some of my friends, they're way ahead of me and we share the same communities. I'm like, dude, was that you who called me, or was that like some AI avatar? They're like, dude, I would never do that to you. But I think in a world today where we're highly commoditized, everything, dude, from this to a pen, to this mic, to this shirt, to this, everything is commoditized. And Google did that to us. And Amazon's doing it at scale. Everything is commoditized. What's the last thing a company has? It's how they make their customers feel versus another company selling the same, bottled water.
It makes me think there's this, I saw a cartoon drawing, it's probably 3 or 6 months ago or something like that. And it was like along the lines of AI was meant to, automate the admin stuff, and here it is creating music and art, and it's like taking away the very things that we love to do in that way. And I think from an AI standpoint and technology in general, there are so many benefits to it. There are so many things 100%. That can help to make it better, make it quicker, make it faster, make it more efficient, and then that should then provide us with then the opportunity to really focus in on the human experience, the customer experience in this case, and make people feel great, and make people feel appreciated and taken care of, because that's what's going to have them come back over and over again, right?
100%. And I think as entrepreneurs, I think intrinsically you're like, if you're thinking, hey, we can get rid of 5 people, I think you got the game wrong.
Yeah.
And I just watched a piece on Gary V. I think last week he was talking at AI Summit. I think it was really great. He said, if I was able to produce 40 pieces of content a day today, or a day a year ago, today with AI, I can make 400 a day, right? Now, AI still requires great people who know how to use AI. But if you're still going to play 40 pieces of content and it just, kill like half of your team, but like save half of that, but only produce 40 pieces of content, like you got the game wrong. And I loved how he said that, because I think we augment and use AI just to speed things up and to get to scale quicker before someone else does. But dude, I'm hiring more people as a result of AI because it's opening up new, better, bigger opportunities at scale with a velocity we've never seen before.
Well, that's what's outstanding, isn't it? Is that, like, imagine 5 years' time, 10 years' time, what roles are you going to invent inside of your company? Are other companies going to create? Because all of a sudden they're here, and we couldn't have imagined them now even, and I think that's incredibly exciting.
It is, and I'll tell you, and you're experiencing just like I am in real time. Like, I think like this is bigger than when the internet came out.
Yeah.
I think this is like when the telephone came out. Like, if you think of the world without the telephone, it was it was notes and mail and, put it in a horse and buggy and bring it across the country, and it would hopefully get there in, 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever. Yeah, I think it's changing at an increasing rate. It'll be interesting how the whole humanoid kind of robotics come into play. Are we able to shift people into roles that deliver better experiences and augment that with the robots or with the, like, I just think it's going to be great. And I think how we're looking at it is how is it reducing or eliminating friction from the customer experience? And I think for us, it's all about friction. We just believe Amazon's done that at scale. The reason you like Amazon and I love Amazon is it's like scroll. I just put it in there, boop, one click. Do you like it? Yep. And off you go. They've removed all friction. It's frictionless. And I think we're obsessed with how do we deliver a customer experience that is frictionless but memorable.
So what is it that drives you then as a human? Yes, as a CEO, but as a person, what gets you up in the morning?
Oh, dude, that's a big question, and you didn't give me that one on the doc. But no, I think it's a great question. Listen, I'm a man of my faith, and I believe we're not just like magically just put here and we're gonna eat and suck some air and play some football and away you go. Like I believe like we're here to make this planet the best place it could be, and to show people what it means to be a great leader and lead with love and win and enjoy these otherwise beautiful experiences in life. And all the while, I mean, I have kids, and I'm trying to be the best example for the kids. Kids don't listen, they imitate. And I think quintessentially, and we've talked about this, my kids have helped me become, the best man I can be, and they constantly are pushing me forward. I think for me, ultimately, and I say this to my team, how do I become the best version of me? So to help you become the best version of you. Nothing wrong with you, but how do you, as a result of joining our team, how have you grown? And listen, some people come for a month, some people come for a year. We still have employee number one. We're going on 42 years in the business, right?
Oh.
If I could help inspire you to have transformation to become the best version of yourself, and that was 6 months or 6 years, dude, like, I'm awesome. I feel great about that.
So the transformation piece and becoming the best version of you then, has that always been there? Like, how did that come to be in your life? Like, let's go back to from an upbringing standpoint.
Yeah, I think, no, it wasn't always like that. Like, I mean, I had, listen, I've been fortunate. I don't have this horror story like my dad shot this guy and then went to jail, and then as a result I found this. Like, no,
Right.
I have great parents, and I have great siblings, and I have a great family, and I'm super privileged. I think for me, it was when I took on the journey of my faith and understand that I'm not here by accident. And how are you helping others? How are you making a difference in life? And really, in order to do that, you have to work on you first. Like, it's about you and being intentional about you. And then I started living my life backwards, dude. That's my biggest hack ever. I'm about to deliver a keynote, dude, in 2 months. Super stoked. Like, I want to have a clock. I'm going to put a clock on the screen, like the digital one.
Yeah.
With it going forward, like the time we have. Instead, I'm going to flip the narrative and said, I'm 48 years old, soon to be. I have roughly, if you work backwards to 80, do the mathematics, I want to have the clock play backwards. So it's going down versus going up. Would that change behavior in your life? Would you be more intentional with your kids? Would you be more intentional learning? Would you be more intentional to be a learner's mindset? Would you give more? Would you be more abundant? So I hope to be that difference. But yeah, I think it was sparked from my faith, understanding I am mortal. I will die one day. And what am I doing with my time here?
What seems to shift? How old were you when that
I was 40.
occurred? 40? Okay.
40. 8 years ago.
8 years ago. It seems, and fill me in if this is accurate or not.
Sure.
Was there a shift from, I'm going to be the best version of myself to I'm going to be the best version of myself for the world or for others? Because it seems that there was a shift, like you said, when you turn 40, and from a faith standpoint, that there's something more than just myself here, and I need to really step it up here.
Yeah, and I think certainly that happened, and the more I've been studying leadership, like in depth obsession about leadership starts with yourself, and if you're not in a great mindset, there's no way you can be effective for others. And then about 10 years ago, around the similar time, I had a friend call me and said, "Are you part of a mastermind community?" And I'm like, no, like I knew the concept, but I said no. He's like, well, listen, my buddy just had his first ever mastermind community, and we share similar friends. His name is Jason Gaynard, a great guy. He put on this mastermind event. It was like 100 entrepreneurs. Dude, it was incredible. I'm like, okay. He's like, I would love to nominate you to be part of it. I said, what do you mean nomination? Don't you just sign up? He goes, no, you need to be interviewed. He puts a high priority on who's in the room. Really, the event is who's in the room, not so much who's on stage. And I'm paraphrasing, but and I said, okay, so once I'm approved, what's the cost? And the cost at the time, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago was like $5,000. It's like $5,000 for what? And he was trying to explain it, right? And it shows where my own mindset was, right? And because I always believed, I'll just take a course or I'll do this. And in the end, this dear friend just said, listen, I love you. Just beep effing sign up. That's exactly what he said. I'm like, and if you know me, dude, well, you do know me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take your word for it. It was a debacle of what you said. I don't even know what the event was. Dude, if anything ever changed my life, it was being part of an entrepreneur community who has a giver's mindset. And imagine just 100, 150 people just pouring into you, believing in you, challenging you, like not being soft on you, like challenging you. Like I got people on in my ear constantly like, dude, you need to where's your book, or where's this, or why aren't you? And they're doing it from love. Like you have that under your sails, like, dude, you're going to soar. And because you talked about mindset, I really got clear about one thing. Like the more you surround yourself with possibility and people who are in action around what's possible on the planet. And by the way, some are going to be behind you and some are going to be ahead of you. But nonetheless, this consciousness of everybody pushing forward. And again, he curates the room so they're not jackasses and pompous. Like these are beautiful people, like doing like crazy stuff that I was able to kind of look in and say, how do I become the best version of myself to then emulate what these guys are doing? Because that's inspiring. And I would say if I've done anything, if anybody's taking anything from this podcast, I would say jump in a community, in a mastermind community, a community of some sort of great people who inspire you to be in transformation from a place of love. Like if they're really good, they'll hound you. You know those people, Cameron. Yeah. You're one of them, dude. I know you hound me a lot, and I hope I'm that guy for you. But the result of it is internal. So you become possibility, and then be able to inspire that in others.
There's a few things that I want to make sure that we summarize there. The first piece from earlier in this part of the conversation of that desire to be the greatest version of yourself for yourself and to inspire others to become the greatest versions of themselves as well. Again, that's where a giver's mindset is going to be as well. The second is around community, is surrounding yourself with people that you mentioned the word inspire. I would say that it's challenging you to raise your standards, but they're not doing it to drag you down or say that you're not good enough. It is not even remotely close to that. It is the exact opposite of that. It's because they see in you your potential. They see in you something greater than you see in yourself right now. They see what your potential is. They see what is possible. And everybody deserves to have people around them like that. And that takes time. It takes effort. It takes consistency of executing on that to ensure that you're showing up in the way that you would want others to show up as well for a long period of time. It doesn't just happen over the course of 6 months or a year or something like that. Again, we've known each other for a solid decade now. I looked at our connection request on LinkedIn. It's how we originally connected. It's the 11th of January 2016. So 10 years at the time of this recording this. Yeah,
wow.
Pretty much exactly. Happy anniversary, my man.
Yeah.
So, it's over. Our friendship and our connection continues to grow and evolve through who we're both becoming, and there's a mutual respect and a mutual inspiration that occurs there. The third one.
And dude, I got to give one thing to you, dude.
Please.
Because you're doing that in real time. Like, and sometimes, you've heard the adage, like, be mindful. You don't know who you're inspiring. You've heard that? Because oftentimes people don't tell you either for whatever reason. But dude, like you yourself were on a mission to find the love of your life. Like I remember, and I hope it's cool I say this, like
please.
You were like, dude, you were on a mission. Like I love it. And not like this weird mission. You had a declaration. And I love how you approached it. Like you were consistent, you were focused, like you made time for it. Like, and then others would say, oh, it just magically appeared. No. I mean, there's some serendipitous about it, but
Sure.
But you were like super disciplined, focused, determined, driven around it. And so I'm watching this from afar because you had told me about it. And then I'm like, and then I started seeing your behavior shift. You did some things personally for yourself, which I'll keep, and that you shared. And then you started exercising at different places. You started joining different communities. Like everything you were doing were aligned with what you wanted. And you knew you had to take those actions for you to produce that. And then lo and behold, I've yet to meet your beautiful wife, but, now I see you, dude, I see these happy posts, like that shit's inspiring, man. It's not a hope and wish. I just want people to get like hope and wish are good, but it doesn't predicate success. Action does. And dude, you lived it. So I hope that's okay. I shared that.
It is more than okay, and cool. I can't wait. Yeah, she'll be listening to this at some stage, and
I'm sure she knows. Like it's not a secret, but
well, I know like she loves it when there's little things that are shared because she's incredible and she is the love of my life. And it took a long period of time. I was single for 10 years, and some of the things you just shared there, I think there's value in sharing that because it was aligned action. It was me doing the things for myself because first and foremost, which is allowing me to become a greater version of myself. I'd say that's actually, similar to what you were referring to before about we become the greatest version of ourselves internally first and foremost. And then it was consciously increasing the odds that I would meet her. And that comes through action. It doesn't come through, oh, I hope this will work out. And this is where things like from a law of attraction standpoint, if you're just thinking that things are going to come to you and you can just sit and do nothing with it, like it's not coming anytime soon. It's the inspired action that results in it. It's taking the aligned action. It's knowing what you want. Yes, the visualizations. Yes, dreaming about what it is, being so crystal clear on that. And then doing it. Like I had a list of 40 something things as to what I wanted in a partner. And she's basically every single one of those. Right. And from knowing that she existed to getting married was 132 days. So 10 years to find her and then 132 days to get married because there's absolute conviction there because of the things that I was so incredibly clear on what it was that I wanted and what I didn't want. So yeah, spot on. And I appreciate you sharing and I love her so much. So
yeah, what comes to mind there is like, we've all heard this quote, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yes.
Like, dude, you did a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on. And so the third thing that I want to mention is the countdown clock that you mentioned, like reverse engineering your life, basically, of, okay, there's the end point. One of the things that I often share within keynotes is having an image on the wall that we designed where every dot is a month, and in lines it showcases a X number of years, like 90 years, for example, and then, right, this is how much is gone so far. Now here's what you've got left and this is the amount that's going to be taken up by sleep, and here's what you got left. And that's freaking confronting. When you, like, anyone listening, go and do that. Because that's enough to get a kick up the butt if you need one. Because, like, yeah, we got plenty of time, but at the same time, not so much. There's a limited amount of time, and hopefully, from a longevity standpoint, we do experience the escape velocity at some stage, and we can expand that out to 100, 150 years. I'd love to live for that period of time and, like, live good years, like health span, not just lifespan. But yeah, there is a limited amount of time, and making the absolute most of that's critical.
Yeah, I love that you said that. Like, we could do a podcast just on that for like a week. Like, I live my life backwards so much that I know, I've got 32, I always say 32 years, but for context, the average life expectancy is around 80. If you back out 48, I'm 48 years old, I have 32 Thanksgivings left. And you said something, yeah, it'd be cool if we lived to 150, but right now we can't. And the reality is, you can buy more of anything, but you can't buy more time. And we've all heard that. It's a good cliche, but to your point, I created, because we're in the art business, I created a poster that says "Living My Best Life," and I do that, dude. I have and like, my family can't, like, they can't look at it, and I'm the guy. Well, listen, you only have, like, my mom's 71. Like, Mom, like, in theory, you have 9 years left. Like, I don't go tell her that, because she'll freak out, and she's probably going to watch this and say, did you have to? But it's so she's getting in action, living her best life now. Like, what are you waiting for? I think that's a pandemic in and itself. Like, everybody's waiting for something. Well, this is life. This is it. Like, you're not getting today back. Tomorrow's, not promised. And you and I have both, witnessed a lot of things in our life, probably some friends dying. By the time you hit 48, 50 years old, you see shit. Yeah. And I think I'm fortunate. If anything, I'm fortunate that I live my life backwards, with being super intentional. Hence why who I surround myself with, spend my time with, what I watch, what I read, what I consume, all very intentional, because I can't make more time.
Yeah. There was a song that I wrote during the pandemic, 2020. Called Worthwhile, and the chorus of these 4 questions, and the questions slightly change in time, where the first 4 questions are future paced, the second chorus, the questions are in the present, and then the final chorus is looking back. And the questions in that final chorus is, what have I become? Was it all I really loved? What have I given up? And was it worthwhile? And there's something about that, of being able to ask ourselves those questions and be thinking about that at the end of life, is you want to be saying, hand on your heart, enough times that, yeah, it was worthwhile, because life's a sea of sacrifice. Like, we're giving up things in order to pursue other pieces. And to be able to say, hand on my heart, it was worthwhile, because if there's enough times that doesn't occur, there's going to be some form of regret that creeps in. Now, whether it's, oh, I regret this, and somebody says, oh, I don't regret anything, I don't have any regrets. But you might have wished it could have been different, or I should have done this, or maybe I could have, if only I had. They're kind of all forms of little bits of regret, potentially.
Yeah, and I think that whole regret, like, I haven't spent enough time on it. But yeah, that would be very unfortunate, to live a life when you're on your deathbed, or last hours and say, oh, I wish I did, or I could have done, or I rather say I live my life like a rock star. And and that's all a series of choices, right? It's being intentional. It's being intentional in a series of choices.
In a world that has infinite possibilities and is only going to become even more so, the intentionality is a superpower of being able to say, this is what I'm going to say yes to, this is what I'm going to say no to, based on my values, based on who I am, based on who I'm becoming, and ensuring that I can look back and go, I don't know what would have happened, but I'm freaking pumped with what did, right? And that's such a just a killer way to live life.
It is, dude. And I got to go back to that community because I'm just, every time I go, so we have an annual summit. It's an annual summit that we all get together for 4 days and we mastermind. Dude, when I go there, like when I enter, I feel like I'm playing a big game and I'm like, yeah, right? I'm walking it. Like, dude, I am humbled on the spot. Like, I go there and I'm, what? Like, I'll, because like I said, there's people probably a little behind you in the line and there's people certainly far ahead of you. I'm telling you, I leave there feeling like a salt grain in the ocean, but inspired, not envious. And I'm also, challenged at my core. You know, sometimes I think we just don't know what we don't know. And when you're sitting beside this man or this woman and they're talking about how like their business is aligned with working with SpaceX to throw rockets into orbit, suddenly your business problems become insignificant. Or you're sitting, because we have a bursary where we give young students who want to be entrepreneurs. We fund them and then they go do these. Like there's this one kid I never forget. He stood up. He's got to have, I think he was like 15 years old, dude. And he was talked like a little scientist. And he was talking about how his goal is to cure plantar fasciitis. Like, what? And then he had slides and I was like, what was I doing at 14? Again, super inspiring. I'm like, oh, dude, I got to step up my game, right? And it goes back to, and we only have so many years that we're doing these things. And I think that's what the secret weapon is. Surround yourself with people who are probably ahead of you and who, I wrote here, have no real gain in me publishing 7 books, but want to do it because they know, one, I've got it in me. And that belief is like, it's the tailwind, you know, you just got beautiful tailwind. You arrive at your destination like an hour early. You feel great. And the no gain part means it's so genuine because they probably already wrote 5 books. And they know the world might need my message or their message or your message. And you know, it goes back to, you only have so many summers, and who you're hanging around with will determine, you know, where you go. We've heard that before. Like, show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are. Yeah. Dude, I think that is one of my biggest hacks ever.
What else, from a hack standpoint or a habit standpoint, and just staying optimal? Because to me, I mean, being able to bring our greatest version of ourselves and continue raising the bar, continue stepping up, a large part of that is our capacity to actually do that. If you don't have your health, for example, you're screwed. Like, you got nothing you can do. If you don't have your mental well-being, you're screwed. You're not going to be able to perform at the level that you need to. If your relationships aren't in check, like there are different components that not only enable us to live an extraordinary life, but to show up in the most extraordinary way would be maybe a good way of putting it. What are some things that you do to show up in an incredible way?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the habit of exercise. I think for me, it's a ritual. It's not even a habit. There's this whole direct correlation to showing up as a leader being fit versus showing up as a leader who doesn't take care of themselves. And I've heard this, I don't know where, so I'm going to paraphrase it, but it said, showing up fit is the new kind of flex rather than having a Rollie and a Ferrari, if that makes sense. Because that was the flex in the 80s. today when and do this, like, and by the way, people say we don't judge. We judge, and everybody's judging all day, and we're doing it at scale in real time. But when someone shows up fit, I'm not talking about ripped. I'm talking about fit. There's this aura to them. There's this energy to them. You're drawn to them automatic versus someone who, let's say, doesn't take their health seriously. There's so many things to be said about that person. They automatically are given, more attention. They're taken serious. There's so many factors. So I think exercise certainly is one. But when I say exercise is overall general health. You got one body. Like, what are you doing with it? And I was listening to this one pastor say, if you were given one car all your life, just a regular vehicle, would you take care of it differently? And everybody's like, yeah, for sure. Well, that's your body. You're given
So
one.
good.
You're not given 8. And again, it reframes time. It's like, yeah, And then the other thing with exercise and health is I got young kids, dude. And I know the good Lord will bless you soon. But I'm doing the arithmetic. I'm 48. My daughter's 10. Like, I want to be a fit 70-year-old because I want to be there with them, right? Hence why I do Spartan races, and I would say that the health fitness for sure. I also think from a relationship standpoint, I try to be the best husband I can be, and dad. I think it starts at home, and it's twofold. One, I try to show up to serve my kids and my wife. How do I become the best servant leader in the house to then, because I just think intrinsically that's the right thing to do. I think biblically it's the right thing to do. And then second of all, if I'm doing that at home, what am I teaching my kids, and how will they emulate that, in their communities, in their school, in their friendship, and quite frankly, in their relationship one day with their spouses, right? So kids don't listen, they imitate. So if you're using foul language with your wife, chances are they'll use foul language with their spouse, friends, community, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's a second one. And then the third one I would say is I am thirsty, dude. I am like thirsty to learn. It goes back to living my life backwards. I just love. So if you ask me who are like 5 players on the, I don't know, Detroit Red Wings or Toronto Maple Leafs, I can't tell you, dude. I'll go to a cool game. I'll watch kind of the big like Super Bowl. I'll watch it because but I don't know. Like, I really spend my time learning. I love learning about leadership and about speaking, how to be an effective leader, how to coach, like anything around that personal development mindset. I can't get enough of it.
The imitation piece is huge. I don't think it's just from a kid's standpoint. It can be, again, from a staff standpoint and, team members and how you're showing up. And I think I've thought a lot about this over the last few years, about character, about who are you? Who are you when you're at your best? Who are you when you're at your worst? Who are you continuing to show up as? Who are you? And that comes through who you are consistently. And ideally, your values, your beliefs, how you show up in the world lives on through other people. And I know you mentioned, we don't have kids just yet. For my nieces and nephews back in Australia, like one thing I do every year is I go back and dress up in costume and surprise them. It's a classic thing. It's like 6 years in a row now. And one of the reasons is, one, you're never too old to dress up in costume. There's a playfulness component to it. Two is that just that beauty of surprise. But the major one is to just show them that you can follow your dreams and still make time for the people that matter most to you, right? It takes me 4 flights and more than 30 hours to get back home, right, to where I grew up. And that's a dedication to be back there and have quality time with folks that I love dearly. And it's a big part of it is the instilling of values and the instilling of behavior to enable them to see what it really takes. And so that brings us to the rapid fire segment here, where we talk through values, beliefs, habits, your edge. So first question then, what is your number one value and why?
So number one value, I would say to be in integrity, like do as you say and say as you do. I don't know how to live any other way. I just think it's an easy way to live when you tell the truth often. Now the truth sometimes.
That's our key for happiness. Just then, if you heard,
yeah, I think that's a vote of yes.
Indy.
I think being honest with grace. I tell people any idiot could give you the cold hard truth and it hits you in the face, and oftentimes it's not met well. But if you could deliver honesty with grace and you pair those two, yeah, it serves me really well.
So good. What about a belief that has shaped who you've become, whether it's about yourself, about others, about the world?
Yeah, dude, this one I got, like, I believe success is predicated on what you tolerate. Like, I want that on my tombstone, man. You talk about standards, and that touches my heart. Where are your standards? And your standards will dictate your level that you move forward. And so I think, yeah, success is predicated on what you tolerate.
What's really good about that belief is when I'm working and breaking through stuff with clients and we build out entirely new belief systems, like empowering beliefs, removing the limiting beliefs, empowering beliefs are getting replaced with that. The flipping over of those beliefs, what I aim to make sure they have is an action that's associated with the belief itself, or it's built into the belief itself. And what is within there is an action associated with that belief system. There's the tolerating, right? Because anytime that you're not experiencing the success that you're wanting to experience, it is your responsibility to ask yourself the question, what am I tolerating right now? What am I not tolerating right now? And it becomes a responsibility, because then you're able to see, yeah, it's because of this. Now it's my responsibility to actually do something about it. And all of a sudden, it is a recipe for continuing to raise those standards over and over again, no matter what the belief is, right? It is enabling you to become an even greater version of yourself. So I love that belief. What about a habit, ritual, or routine that you simply can't live without, whether it's a daily habit or right out to an annual tradition that you might do?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if it's a habit, but something that's engraved, entrenched in who I am is attending church service every Sunday. It encompasses so many things and reminds me of my mortality. It reminds me why we're here. It brings family together. Certainly adds humility to my life, and oftentimes, actually every time, I feel like I'm going in proverbially like with this bottle of water, and oftentimes it's half full, a little full, maybe a little less. By the time I leave service, that thing's overflowing, and it just kind of recalibrates and resets me for the week, for the next week.
Outstanding conversation today, man. Where can people go to find out more?
Yeah, dude, love you, man. If you're interested in any of my content, certainly on all social platforms, TonyGareri.com, or you can visit my website, TonyGareri.com as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, dude, appreciate you coming on the show. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, dude. And I want to really acknowledge you, man. Like, if people haven't been following you, like you're a giver's mindset, but you're also in action all day, every day. You continue to inspire me. Hence why I love being around you, man. You're doing great things in the world. And if people haven't seen your keynote, like this, you deliver a keynote and sing and play the piano. Like, dude, you're rock star status. So thank you also for the friendship. I think it goes both ways. Like, I really appreciate and acknowledge. I don't take this, very lightly. I'm very thankful for the relationship and friendship, and certainly to share value today with you.
I look forward to celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary. I was about to say 20th anniversary.
I give my
20th
best
anniversary.
There you go.
Classic.
I give love it. Give my best to your wife as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. And hey, for those of you tuning in, we'll have everything that was mentioned in the show notes linked at CameronAtlas.com/podcast. We got some great new guests coming up, so make sure you hit that follow button, leave a comment, and until next time, go and write the next line in your story. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time here on The Edge of Possible.